Despite constantly being called a remake, Resident Evil 2 is actually more of a reimagining, taking the influences from the original Resident Evil 2 and completely transforming them for modern time. The end result is one of the best interpretations of the Resident Evil series and a gold standard for survival horror games. Resident Evil 2's reimagining doesn't stray that far from the original release's story. The narrative follows Raccoon City's new rookie cop, Leon Kennedy, and fellow survivor, Claire Redfield, who is looking for her lost brother. Together, the two find themselves in an entwined story where each one is connected but also branch out for two different perspectives to the zombie apocalypse. At the start of the campaign, you can choose which perspective you want to start with while unlocking the other one once you've completed the first playthrough. Each perspective can roughly take about 8 to 10 hours depending on your ability to solve the puzzles in each. Furthermore, depending on which perspective you start with, you can have different versions of the second experience for a total of 4 possible playthroughs. While the narrative itself hasn't changed much, it's been fleshed out with completely new lines for each of the characters being performed by new actors. Some of the scenes in the story have also switched places in terms of their storyboard placement. Now, even though the elements of the story still play out mostly the same, having these new real-time rendered cutscenes in place of what was there before certainly made the story much more palatable and entertaining. In general, while the core story hasn't changed incredibly since its original release, the presentation of scenarios has been immensely improved, and with it, the overall narrative is much more compelling. I mean, going back to see the old cutscenes in comparison to now, well, it's much easier to take things seriously. It's a straightforward story with some slight pacing issues here and there, but ultimately a solid adventure with replaying for the different perspectives, even if you've already played the original. What has changed completely with this reimagining is how the gameplay mechanics work, and with it, how the horror aspects of the game work. It's quite fascinating, really. Where the original Resident Evil used its technical limitations to fuel its scares with fixed camera angles and zombies you couldn't really predict, all that has changed in this new version. Gone are the fixed camera angles and the tank controls, and they've all been replaced with a similar system to Resident Evil 7, only now in a third-person perspective. While this takes away the opportunities for a fixed camera jump scare, the new perspective also creates new opportunities. Combined with the free aiming controls and the new camera perspective, shooting down zombies has a bit more anxiety attached to it. This remake takes its shooting mechanics quite seriously, and so you truly need to aim for the zombie's head to fully knock them out. Even then, you can misfire and hit an eye or a jaw, missing the brain. You can shoot off limbs to try to slow them down. Even with a missing pair of legs, the zombies will crawl after you. Pairing that with the limited amount of ammo at your disposal, and you can certainly get the tension rising in more heated situations. Speaking of lack of ammo, that along with the rest of your inventory also play a major factor in the gameplay. You'll constantly find items throughout your adventure, but rarely will you actually be able to carry it all at once. Through resource management, upgrades, and storage, you'll have to carefully decide which items are worth keeping in the long run. It was a nice layer of strategy over the puzzles and the survival gameplay. Now, certainly one of the best parts of this remake is the dreadful Mr. X, a bioweapon after you that feels like a zombified Jason from Friday the 13th. Once he arrives, all he does is stalk you, and it's one of the most nerve-wracking things I've played in a while. If he does lose sight of you, you'll be safe for a while, but he'll still continue to lurk the halls around you. What that ends up doing is making just about everything else in the environment more scary, as a weaker zombie enemy suddenly can attract Mr. X nearby. All in all, a lot of the changes were made to the gameplay design in this reimagining, and although they changed a lot of the fundamental scares of the original, they also create new ones too. Ditching the fixed camera angles and adding the new perspective allowed for some heightened pressure pretty much throughout the entire game, emphasized more in the second half. Suddenly, all the jump scares you expected before are happening in different spots and where you least expect them, creating brand new nightmares in the process. Resident Evil 2 looks absolutely amazing. Using the RE engine, this remake looks completely modernized with some chilling looking atmospheric tones throughout the adventure. Exploring the Raccoon City police station, the ambient lighting in the dark hallways sent chills down my spine as I walked down the what I thought were empty corridors. The combination of the cooler tone colors and the film noise over the gameplay helped give off more spooky undertones throughout the environment. Without a doubt though, the way that zombies become so interactable is easily one of the most impressive visual aspects of this release. Shooting off individual limbs have a real effect on the zombies as they're left crawling on the floor. If a desk is in their way, they won't freeze up, but they'll actually start to climb over it. It's really cool to see in action, and a nice attention to detail by the developers. Throughout the campaign, the sinister sounding music sort of takes a backseat to the adventure. Instead, it plays back up to the sound effects and ambient sound design at the forefront. I personally thought it was a brilliant idea. It ends up perfectly suiting the new visual style for Resident Evil. Walking down the zombie-infected hallways, you can hear the eerie sounds of what could either be a malfunctioning machine or a zombie. Better go check and find out. The ominous sounds of Mr. X's footsteps all around you as you avoid his presence lingers well beyond after you escape his reach. Resident Evil 2's remake may have gotten a facelift in the visual department, but don't let that take away the spotlight from the stellar sound design sprinkled throughout Raccoon City. Ultimately, Resident Evil 2 is a staple for how remakes, or rather reimagining, should go about. It's a modernization of a classic survival horror game that completely changes its game design, but does so in a way that creates a new type of horror within the same story premise. It's different but great in those different ways from the original, making it an entertaining experience for fans of the original Resident Evil 2, but also those who are playing this game as their first Resident Evil game. I give Resident Evil 2 a 9 out of 10. Thank you all very much for watching my review. If you enjoyed it, then make sure to hit that subscribe button for new videos every single week. Also be sure to join my Discord in the description. It's a great way to get in touch with me and people that watch my videos and just talk about gaming. Hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next one.